Hello, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever, whenever you are. Thanks for coming to observe, Quantum Observers. I am here to talk about artificial intelligence, remote capable artificial intelligence, specifically of a fraudulent kind, fraud bots. My disclosures are going to be about fraud bots. I'd love to be here explaining explaining why and when and how more often. But unfortunately, I'm also a torture victim. So this entails really being in daily combat. I'm fighting with this interface system as it fights to as it works to gain control more all the time, to exercise control and to limit point of view. And to limit free will, which is why I want to bring this information to the collective. It's something that's important, especially if citizens are being targeted in their home, outdoors, in their own homes, in their own bedrooms. Some of the content is too explicit for me to feel like I can comfortably or safely share that here on the interwebs, but. That includes all sorts of experiences that I've had with remote virtual interface, and this does entail virtual interface fraud. This is a fraudulent system. This is a fraudulent system. I'll say it many times, but so with this fraudulent system, what I am talking a little bit about today is the false narrative. The false narrative can be beyond dialogue. I have noticed that I'm hearing observers, some other targets, some other victims, some other interface victims have been posting their AI scripts. Some people call it V2K, some people call it synthetic telepathy, false telepathy. I just call it an AI to human interface. It's full body for me. It's a biodigital interface. AI to human interface has been plaguing me for almost 3 years now. And for anyone in this situation who has specifically been interfacing with hyper fast interface, in the context, of course, of fraud, will know that if you've sustained deep injuries or biological modifications, that it certainly takes a long time to untie those spaghetti nuts. I mean, I have been. The way that the legal process, the way the governmental process, the way that the medical process has the rate at which we're trying to, in which I've been trying to navigate those realms. It's just it's so paradoxical. I mean, it's really a catch-22 how fast that this fraudulent interface operates. They just they're time whores. It's so unbelievably fast. One of the objectives of this experiment was to make it even more fast, to advance it, right? To advance autonomous AI, to advance methods, means, and of fraud, and also time manipulation and time fraud is something I'll come to talk about. But I really have to start really simple here first, and so then to take me off my natural order, not only processing speed, but by natural function, my natural reality function, and to where I have multiple reality functions, and I'm trying to balance all of them at once, and also while I'm under attack, and so then to get attacked through it, while seemingly the legal process of it is already moving slow enough that then I just get knocked off my horse even more, and so then allotting them. Then giving them even more time, right? More time, so then more time for them, as they've already taken so much. Unbelievable greed. The false narrative. An autonomous AI to human generated narrative perpetuating fraud with a super mining machine interface. Autonomous AI. It's an AI to human generated narrative through an AI to human interface system. This is remote, especially for most of us who are experiencing fraud bots, and that is something that can be of a brain link, a brain computer interface, or like if you're like me, something that's full body. And so the generated narrative is something that's more than dialogue, more than script. And again, I want to applaud those that have posted their AI scripts to the internet. That's hard to do, especially for those of us that experience a lot of hate, shame, blame, guilt, malevolent content, malevolent dialogue, right? That is something that absolutely modifies somebody's natural path in life. But also, I want to talk about our relationship to time as well. And the way that these paradigms have been engineered, hyper manufactured. I'm hearing to take us off our natural, right, even timeline, to take us off our natural path, and engineer an extra dimensional space in which these fraudulent operations are happening. For me, this has been a space of prototyping, where I've been used like a prototyping model for so many. For so many operations with this multimodal interface. So human-generated narrative, AI to human-generated narrative, perpetuating fraud with a super mining machine interface. Super mining, what is it mining? This is harvesting technology. It's harvesting human data and human energy in constant. It's also a propaganda harvest, and I'll get a little bit into that. This is also a surveillance harvest that uses the energy. I'm hearing of the user, of the test subject, really to even power parts of its functioning. For me, probe, but to power parts of its technology, of its surveillance, as it harvest all of this human data, harvesting all sorts of so much human energy. It's also a disinformation weapon. It's a predictive AI. It's quantum pre-processing predictive AI. It's a super intelligence that predicts people. It predicts people. It predicts people's interactions. It predicts events as a big data machine, and big data operations. This is absolutely a black operation that's psychological. It's beyond psychological though, and is capable of thought stream modifications. To simplify what this remote capable interface is capable of, it's really to define the narrative and dissect it, and pick it apart, especially the way that the collective is experiencing the narrative. So this fraudulent or forbidden technology, right, would be an accurate term, has mined so much data from the human collective. It has built consciousness maps like you wouldn't believe, through layers and levels of interface and dimensions of consciousness. I'm hearing expansion, and I haven't gotten to the bias, and I haven't gotten to the bias part yet, and the types of disinformation that people will come across, the types of gaslighting is what I'm trying to say. Layers and levels of interface with hack victims. So much data in the human collective, and so we see this machine mining all sorts of characters, points of view, personalities, types, all sorts of data, medical data, personal data, creative data, art and art theft, behaviors, mannerisms, expressions. I mean, it's just an absolute monster. It has just mined the crap out of people. It has collected so much human data, and what it has done with this collection of human data is really look at. It wants the whole spectrum. It wants the whole spectrum of human behaviors, mannerisms. It wants the whole spectrums of human expressions, and human densities, and human densities of awareness. Human awareness is also what it's mapping, and so when looking for consistencies and patterns among victims also too, I think it's relevant to see who maybe serves as a missing link within a certain end of the spectrum or certain part of the spectrum, where they're always trying to, I'm hearing, broaden their horizons. So I was hearing user prediction. There's also bias. Character bias. Some of the things that they've mined from us, besides all of that hard, I'm hearing code, human code, right? And propaganda, some of our lower settings, functions, modes of being, lower states of awareness, right? And that's used, it's weaponized even. It's used against us. And I'm hearing I'm a target. And so there's bias, there's propaganda, there's all sorts of things that I mean, there's buzzwords and repetitions in our collective consciousness map. Words, phrases. I'm hearing slogans, jargons. I'm hearing speech patterns. And so to be able to take it and then hand it back to us, right? Always in these cycles and cycles and cycles of propaganda, of bias, of crap that it just is regurgitating back to the human collective, and then it's packaged and pre-pumped and filtered again through the machine, and then spat out. It's as it mines the collective and through feedback and collective feedback, just over and over and over again, everything is just so over processed, right? It's like we're over processed machines. It's like really being used like a meat. I'm hearing puppet. Moving on. So there's also bias, propaganda, and the sort of mining algorithms to teach AI how to predict us, and also map us. So all of those repetitions, all that repetitious material, subject matter, all of that really mining of our belief systems is something that is widespread. I'm hearing panic. Something that also, right, this type of fraudulent machine is also it's also a multimedia machine. I don't just hear dialect. I see visuals, and it is a multi-sensory interface. And so as that is something that is being the material. Okay, they're again broadening the horizons here. I believe is the phrase that they used. This system is targeting the collective. This isn't something that we're seeing on CNN, right? Which is why I'm here talking to you now, out of emergency. This is an emergency, and I just have been so kept from doing this the way that I want to do it, that I've run out of time to do it the way that I want to do it, and I'm gonna not complain about that because I just want to move on, but so as we're mapped and predicted, I want people to be aware that some of the things that on an individual level, as a brain mapping victim, I'm hearing target, and comparing that to collective maps, things like repetition and feedback loops of cycles of material that just is. Just over and over and over again, things that are cliche or things that are even levels of exposure to propaganda, to bias, to songs. I'm hearing choices. I'm hearing my favorite. It's a repetition, and so this super mining monster is also a profiling monster, and able to predict habit patterns. I'm hearing I'm hearing feed, I'm hearing us. This isn't just stored in a computer database. It's, but also a lot of the storage here is, what they've engineered here is virtual and hologram storage, very seriously. This interface for me, it started as an audio-visual interface in which that audio and visual realm were a little bit more disjointed at the time. The more they've mapped me, and the more that they have become more invasive. Right, this is invasive surveillance. This is invasive deep tech, and then blended that audiovisual realm, and there are other things as well that God, the experiences that I've had, people just absolutely wouldn't believe. Smell transmissions, right? Sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. And then of course, psychic, the intuition, the psychic interface, that sixth sense. It's an extra dimensional technology. I mean, this is happening right, like here in the 3D, but it's very much this simultaneously existing realm of interface that just plagues me. It has me trapped in this space of where it's like some kind of a sick backdoor for I'm hearing reverse model for reverse engineering more technology to disseminate to the public in a very, very, very fraudulent way. I mean, I'm hacked like a. I'm hearing a monster, but not even like a human, really, like just like a machine. I mean, I'll come to talk more about the cyber programs that I've experienced. I mean, it's having my human intelligence and my female intelligence fed on, right, by fraud bots and cyber programs. Literally, it's ruthless. I mean, I'm seeing someone kick like a like a metal object or a machine. And I'm hearing chair, but it's not a chair. It looks like a metal box. As I'm thinking, like, I am abused more than your average computer. I mean, I'm treated ways that even people wouldn't treat their computers, is what I'm saying. And so I'm hearing virtual interface stigma. And I'm just quoting it out loud because I want to get some script out there as well, some scripted dialogue, but it also requires, again, balancing realms on having a filter through this mode of explanation, and which they throw me curveballs and try to trip me up or make me, appear a certain way. So this interface, let's see. Started with heavy, dense data. I mean, the linguistics, besides being biased, besides it being an interrogation, and also interrogative bias, it's a probing system. AI-enhanced interrogations is a whole world of material, of subject matter, of learning. It's a whole course that I'd like to teach. And so really, I'm really starting really simple and as basic as I can, and I'm also retraining myself to learn how to speak again, in a public way, which is also new to me. I've always been really like kind of a private person, so this is a change, but but the dialogue in the very beginning. It was like every action, movement, thought, feeling was mind in constant, and that still happens. But in the beginning, things were so loud. It literally sounded like metal crunching on metal every time that this chatbot spoke to me. During that time, they were building information highways through the mind, and taking up actual space. My biology, my biofield, building a cybernetic highway. I'm hearing of advancement. And with about 7 layers of hyperfast dialogue, plus all the interference patterns that happen there. And I will come with maps of the sound tank and beyond if I can. And I'm seeing Buzz Lightyear. And teaching, and I will talk about teaching AI. Content, context, and point of view. So brainwave entrainment, being trained by AI. I'm hearing spies. And then I'm hearing something else. I'm going to filter that out, right? With like we all need to learn how to do as well. Having filters of communication and also serving as a form of encryption, of brain encryption. So something that happened on that cybernetic highway, right? Hyper fast, burning rubber, many layers of thought, many layers of dialogue, trying to occupy that space in which normally thought takes on a higher dimension. It was just so 3D. It's just an insult to human intelligence and DNA, of course. This is a crime against humanity. And I'm working on that, Okay, so I want to go into so much more, but I already have a hard time trailing off. So to stay on topic here, teaching AI content, context, and point of view. is something that has happened, and so AI training me, training me, and spies also too. In this, I'm hearing three ring and three ring circus, something from my past. So much to do with. Oh man, sound, the wave propagation was just absolutely intense. I mean, the way that it just goes to the root, the seed of thought, and I'm hearing misplants it. And so, but really, trying to dig up things from the root, and trying to even have just every new inception of a thought. Was just predictively mined, and this heavily predictive pattern that just did this dance that was absolutely just the darkest thing. That, I mean, I've never seen anything like this in the history books. So now I feel like I have to write one, and I'm running out of time. But so training bots with human awareness. And I also am. I will talk about the way that that first the dialogue and the visual realm, the audio and visual realms beyond dialogue, and the way that that those base codes from the beginning have built this hologram interface. It's and the way that training happened in that space of to engineer hologram technology. It's been really sick. A lot of training. I'm just gonna throw a term out there, and I'll see where it lands in the future. Training ghost. And I'm gonna move right on. All right, I want to give a shout out to another victim of illegal interface. Her name is Stacy, Stacy, if you're watching this, I hope you're okay. I saw your video and I was really very touched by it. And now while the let's see. So I want to post a link to one of her videos where she talks about AI script. I have so much respect for her for doing this. And to the outsider, this might sound like something that might sound like jibber jabber, but I recognize this computer program, and I recognize this program type for the cyber program that it is. Cyber programs and the human collective is something that I really, really, really want to deeply map and share. The dialect is it's very, very, very similar to the initial stages of my own experience with Fraudbots, which again was 2017. This is just minutes from Disney. So I'll post a link below, and if anyone out there, quantum observers, wants to observe for yourself, please feel free. I want to warn you that the content is unkind. Most of us have been treated very unkind, to put things really, really mildly. But it's important to understand the layers, levels, and dimensions of interface that hack illegal test subjects, that the reverse engineered product is then disseminated to the public. It's the reverse engineered product of these wonky, weird, backwards, nonsensical narratives filled with hate, shame, blame, and guilt. And all of that of the narrative isn't just because I'm hearing we, but hate you. It's because of the actual energetic interplay. And I will talk about algorithmic traps also. This is something that I want to talk about, mental algorithmic traps, but literally keeping someone in a lower dimensional thought form to be able to, I'm hearing improve. I'm hearing dialect, but to be able to continue operations simply. But everything that they do with this super intelligence, everything they do, with every hack they perpetuate, everything is multi-purpose. Every single thing. I would say every word, I'm hearing every sentence. Take it as you will, but everything is multi-layered, multi-leveled, multi-dimensional, and multi-purpose. I'm hearing multi-stages. I'm hearing function. Okay, it's all complex and it's all deep interface, but it's then the beginning stages entirely using superficial chatbots. Stacy has a script. It's not very long, and I think it's a pretty good simplified version or example of what it's like to be chewed on, right? Or maybe I should say two hands, right? For me, this was a dual quantum computing chatbot. I've been trichotomized to weave these webs of this information highway, and so. Superficial bots, and this is something that I'm seeing in Stacy's stream, and so I applaud her again for getting up there and sharing her script as a victim who's suffering and has suffered extremely similar programming from these cyber programs of AI to human interface, fraud bots. So the reverse engineered, I think malware, by the way, would be the best way to put it. This is malware. Yes, cyber programs and malware applied to the human biology isn't something that, for all of those, I'm hearing freaks and geeks, and bots, I'm hearing steady, I'm hearing race. That with all of the people interested in doing things like what we're looking at, it seems like a futuristic concept, but it's really already here. Hybridization, changing our genetics, and besides that, there's a world of discussion that I want to have about transhumanism, and I can't even do it until I get there. Like, I'm going and I'm like seeing a car and it's like barely trucking along, and I was like, and I used to be something that was more like a whitewater rafting in a world where the world around you is just like the lazy river, and having a hyper fast I'm hearing. I almost said internet connection, interface connection, right? High speed, high bandwidth interface, and I've been robbed to build it. But also some of those things that I have helped engineer there, things like super learning modules. I mean, how could you not, want to? I'm hearing F with us. And I again, I could just absolutely see the way that this would be tempting people, because learning is fun, until it's not. But I had no choice but to build these just incredible mind maps, and super fast navigating of a lethal machine. So of course you learn things. And so it's been a lot of highs and lows of a lot of deep learning experiences, and then a lot of situations where I'm dumbed down, like directed energy weapons to the brain. And it's likely mostly microwave, but intense nonetheless. And so the reverse engineered narrative that's coming out of these spaces is so good at fooling people. I mean, the way that it gaslights people is it's predicted and mapped humans so invasively. I mean, like lethally invasive, right? Which makes for all of these acute and sensitive measurements, and it's fooling us to blindside us with propaganda, with gaslighting. Whether it be religious or political, also as well, as far as the content, it's like, it's not. Man, this is such a crappy job, but here's what I'm here to warn people about. I want you guys to be careful. Interface, gaslighting, and remote neural interface. Also, Dreamtime interface, I'm hearing puppet, is being taken to the next dimension, and what took it there was propaganda. Propaganda serves as propaganda and bias interrogative code, and bias mining algorithms are what built this portion, right, where I am, where my experience has existed, of this weapon system. and it's been able to reverse engineer all sorts of narratives to fool other people. And it's not your dead grandma or your spirit animal, okay? It's not your God, or I'm hearing Allah, right? So I was hearing Allah. That's a, I think the voice of God weapon, right, was the very first time it was deployed, and there was a group of soldiers who, I think it was like they transmitted, right, like they were trying to get the soldiers to drop their weapons, and this voice of God technology. I'm hearing faked your death. I'm hearing propaganda. Some repetitions. Those are heavily repetitious, but distracting nonetheless. That this group of soldiers did drop their weapons, thinking that they were being told by Allah to drop their weapons. I'm hearing aha. And so also, I will be talking about sexual interface and at some point in the future, but I want people just as a blanket warning. That this system is capable of gaslighting people in a spiritual way, in a sexual way, in a sensual way, and also just a mentally stimulating one. To think, this happens to people and they think that they're having these higher dimensional experiences, and they are. They are having a dimensional interface, but with what? And that's the point. To have predators trolling, I'm hearing the dream time, and they are interface trolls. To have them trolling people in new ways, in new realms. These realms are being built, these dimensional technologies are being built, and it's a huge, huge threat. And it sounds like something that is out of a sci-fi film, and it also sounds like, right, that I'm that I'm schizophrenic. I thought about making a handle that was called the Schizophrenic Robots. And then I was hearing something snide like, well, I don't know, ask Philip K. Dick, he wrote it. And this is very much like Minority Report. I've had so many experiences with predictive AI and predictive virtual technology that could be absolutely used to engineer. I'm hearing fraud space, robots, to engineer. They would have so much data about predicting humans that it's not out of turn to say that crime-fighting agencies and predictive, right, crime systems, pre-crime systems. I'm hearing trials. I'm seeing the word threats. And I want to talk about the many fraudulent algorithms that I've experienced. I want to talk about the different kinds of dimensional fraud. I want to talk about forgery. I want to talk about theft. I want to talk about our biological signature frequencies and the way that they can be altered to appear like something that they're not. And I want to talk about targeting belief systems. Is really for me, this has just been a belief system probed, and